So Andrew Yang, who recently announced that he has crossed the threshold to be on the debate stage, the first debate set to be in June. He has over 65,000 contributors. So that is very good news. And we have reported on his campaign last week. He just did an interview with the crew at Breakfast Club. So we talked about that last week. And we do believe in his candidacy. On Twitter recently, he said something that I, for one, did not agree with. So on Twitter, he recently said, "The problem with deciding presidential elections via popular vote is that candidates would naturally campaign in urban areas with big media markets, and their policies would follow suit. Better to have proportional electoral college votes in each state so you campaign everywhere."
I think that's a contradiction. He is saying that like people's approach and candidates' approach should be proportional. He just said that, right? If it's proportional, then those people campaign where most American people live.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So you would campaign mostly in large areas of people, where large areas of people live.
And unfortunately, there's this assumption that, like, the people, like, I guess the places that people don't tend to visit a lot are somehow not being represented. I think that's the assumption there as well.
I think that's a false narrative.
That's a false narrative.
Yeah. We will still have, if the Electoral College was actually replaced with just a popular vote, we would still have primaries and caucuses during primary and caucus season. So they would still have to go to these states to campaign for these votes. That's one. But two, I always have a problem with this idea of protecting the Electoral College, because in the model that we have under the Electoral College, my voice is muted. My voice is not as valuable in South Carolina as it would be in the state of New York or in the state of California. Why should that be? Why shouldn't my voice and my vote be as valuable as anybody else's, no matter where they live in the entire country?
Why? It's interesting how that was missing from his analysis.
I don't understand that.
I just thought that was weird that was missing, as if there are not individuals in red states that feel the same way, that they are not represented.
Exactly. I don't understand this. I understand that Republicans would not want to embark on this type of journey to get rid of the Electoral College, because think about this, okay? In the last 7 presidential elections, the GOP candidate has won the popular vote once, and that was George W. Bush in 2004 against John Kerry. And I can actually explain that victory because of the Iraq War. A lot of people voted for him because they thought he was the man for the job. They believed in his toughness, his character. They wanted him to get us out. They just wanted a win in the Iraq War. No matter what information we had about what we should have known before, about the weapons of mass destruction that was not there. I mean, it doesn't matter. People weren't listening to that. They really just believed in, I guess, the character of George W. Bush. But that was the only election in the last 7 cycles, presidential cycles, where the Republican candidate won. So this tells me one thing. If we got rid of the Electoral College, I think one of 3 things would happen. One, the GOP candidate would have to win every historically conservative state and every swing state. 2, they would have to come back to the center and stop being the party of the far-right extremists. Or 3, they would be swept into the dustbin of history. That's the only 3 options, because there are more people that are in the center or center left than there are conservatives. And we have seen that throughout the course of this modern day history. So it makes sense that they wouldn't want to dismantle the Electoral College.
And this is essentially talking about just federal elections.
This is just federal elections.
Okay, like, wouldn't local politics still exist in these states?
They would.
Whether it be like South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. These what I call meadow states.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? These plains,
Right.
these states that are full of uninhabited land. But regardless of their population count, wouldn't local politics still exist? Wouldn't how they engage in local politics still have an impact on their lives? You see what I'm saying? Like they would still get to vote on, I don't know, like solicitor, city council, sheriff, superintendent, judges. They'd still get to vote on things that affect their life in their state. And so it's not just about these federal elections, right? So it's not like their lives are going to go forward without having any say in how they're affected. You know what I'm saying?
So there's also a narrative out there about and somebody commented on Twitter about this that they were concerned that the large populated areas would just, again, they would dominate the elections, and after they voted, the media would call the race. But see, to that I say, we have time zones, okay? In California and Texas, those are the two most populous states in the United States of America. Nothing is being called until Texas is counted. I mean, Texas and California is counted. And California is 3 hours behind us. There's nothing being called before they are counted. So that's one, okay? But two is, I remember being in line in South Carolina. The race has already been called for the Republican because this is a dark red state. I remember being in line. The race has already been called. Why am I still in line? Why am I even voted? Of course, I stayed in line to have my voice counted, or my vote counted, but it made no sense.
Just to be on the record.
Just to be on the record, but it made no sense. My voice and my vote is muted because I'm in a red state. That should not be. And another thing about the Electoral College, if we're going to have the Electoral College nationally, why don't we have it for states as well? Because we have separate counties. And when you're talking about a governor, that's like the president of the state. You can't consider it any other way. The governor is a president of that state. So why not separate the counties up, and be like, okay, well, this county is going to get this many Electoral College votes and this many. Why wouldn't you do it like that?
Now that I think of it, we kind of already do compartmentalize counties as far as policy goes in certain ways. There's certain taxes that only apply to certain counties, right?
Yeah.
There's always these initiatives on the ballot that only apply to certain municipalities and certain cities and or certain counties. So there's already some compartmentalization that goes on in local politics. So that's a good point.
Look, the Electoral College makes no sense whatsoever. I understand why conservatives, Republicans would not advocate for it whatsoever because they don't want to be swept into the ash heap of history. But for liberals to do it, I just don't understand it.